Hi, I'm Christian Bitzer, and today I want to show you how the right type of exercise can help you increase your mobility, reduce pain, tingling and numbness, and all the negative sensations that you have if you suffer from polyneuropathy. All of this can be done with a type of exercise that's really easy to do, so it's not strenuous at all. It can be done at home by yourself, and you can do it in a very short amount of time. Now, in order to understand how exercise can help you with polyneuropathy, you first have to understand why polyneuropathy causes any symptoms, like the pain and like the trouble walking or the trouble controlling precise movements. So there's a common misconception about that, which is that most people think that nerve damage in your hands and feet, exclusively in your hands and feet, causes all the symptoms. So people think I have a problem in my hands, for example, there's a nerve damage in my hands and that's why I have pain and all the trouble. However, researching the polyneuropathy at the University Clinic of Freiburg, I did tests on the reflexes that happen on people's nerves if they suffer from polyneuropathy. And what we did was we sent electric stimuli through the legs and through the nerves of people suffering from polyneuropathy, and we found out that their nerves are actually working different. So their reflexes are working different, which means that reflexes which happen in the central nervous system are altered in people that suffer from polyneuropathy. So the central nervous system works differently if you suffer from polyneuropathy, which is mainly the brain and the spinal cord. And these are the most trainable organs that you have on your body. You can train your brain in the shortest amount of time and with a lot less effort than you could, for example, train your muscles. So that gives us a great opportunity. So what this means, again, is polyneuropathy also changes the signal processing in your brain. It does not just change the way the nerves in your feet or your hands work. So what that means for you is that you can probably train your brain to process these signals differently and then not be in pain anymore or be able to move better. Because feelings and sensations essentially are made in your brain. They're not made in your feet, they're not made in your hands, they're made when your brain gets the signals from your hands and feet and then processes them. And this can actually be changed, this can actually be trained. The same is true for movement, because movement is controlled in your brain, it's not controlled in your hands and feet. Now, there are great examples for how a well-trained brain can control movements very precisely and very impressively. If you think of an old lady knitting, she doesn't have nerves in the knitting needles, but she still moves them very precisely and very fast, and it's pretty impressive. And if you try it the first time, you can't imagine that that's even possible. Same is true for eating with sticks. I was actually out for dinner with a Chinese friend, and she ate with sticks, obviously, which I had a really hard time to do. And she told me that she can eat even peanuts with sticks. And again, you can't feel the sticks because you don't have nerves in your sticks. However, it's still possible to move them very precisely if you train a lot, if you practice a lot. And the same is true for any other movement. So this can be practiced and it can be learned to move very precisely even with damaged nerves. Now, how do you do that? How do you train this? Most people think of if they hear the word exercise, they think of running or biking or lifting weights. Now, this has obviously been tried with people suffering from polyneuropathy. There's been one big study on that, and they actually had a little bit of a positive effect. However, the positive effects are very small. And you have to train pretty like intense and do a lot of exercise for a long time to have an effect. However, there's a different type of exercise that's not strenuous at all, and that for some people watching this it's obviously better, which is just balancing. It's called balance training. So all you do is, as you can see me doing this here, all you do is you try to stand, for example, on one leg. If that's too hard, there are easier options, and you train balancing your body. So this increases how well you can feel your body, and obviously how well you can move it. And it's actually the best way we know how to alter the way your brain processes the signals that come from your feet and from your hands and from all of your body. Now, people have been doing balance training for a very long time, and there's literally been hundreds of studies on the effects of it. And what it comes down to is that basically everybody profits from balance training. Athletes can improve their performances because they can activate their muscles better after they do balance training, because it just gives you a better sense and a better feeling of your muscles. And I've actually had the opportunity to watch one of the Olympic champions in the Nordic combination, where you have to do ski jumps, for example. And what the guy that later was the Olympic champion did was he did some strengthening exercises, and then in the pauses he got on a slack line, which is basically a rope that he had to walk on to practice his balance. That's obviously not the right thing to do for a polyneuropathy patient, but it helps athletes improve their performance pretty well. You have the same with elderly people. Elderly people fall a lot less if they do a lot of balance exercises. And the same is true with recovery after injuries. And balance training also prevents injuries in most sports. For example, in basketball or volleyball, if you do a lot of balance training, you can prevent about 60% of the ankle injuries, and also like half of the knee injuries. So you can basically say that balance training is good for everyone. And obviously it's been tried in scientific studies with people suffering from polyneuropathy, and the outcome is usually the same. Like there's been several studies now, and the outcome is usually that balance training improves the mobility, the balance, the pain, and the numbness. And this has been consistently shown in all the studies that I know. One very interesting finding in some of the studies is how short the training can be. There have been studies that only invested 8 minutes twice a week of balance training, and they already had a pretty significant effect on the polyneuropathy. And that's because balance training is not a form of conditioning exercise, but it's a form of learning, of motor learning, as scientists call it. You learn how to do a certain movement, and you don't need to do that till exhaustion. You don't need to do strenuous exercise. So basically everybody can do it. So the training can be done in a very short amount of time. It doesn't have to be done till exhaustion. And what's very important is the effects come very quickly. I've actually been teaching classes where we did tests, balance tests before and after the training. And within 2 hours, people had huge improvements already. Now, what's even better about this type of exercise is that you can do it at home and you can do it by yourself. You don't need a trainer and you don't need a gym. You just need to know how to do it. And that's why I came up with a book that explains how to do it. And in the book, you get all you need to know to exercise safely, which is very important. You get 24 different exercises for every skill level. And they actually there's actually a way of moving from very weak to very strong. You can get different exercises that are the right exercises for every level, no matter how fit or how weak you are. And there's also a self-test for your balance in it. And the whole thing comes for €12.95, which currently is $14.50 US. So you might be wondering how big the effect is that you can actually expect through the training. And a lot of people might be wondering if they can even still do any exercise because they might feel too old or too sick because of the polyneuropathy. So I want to share a case study with you of a patient who was actually really sick when he started exercising, but he still tried. And he started at age 92. He had severe polyneuropathy that made it impossible for him to feel anything below his knees. So his feet and his calves and his lower leg was completely numb, and he could not use any of the muscles in his leg and feet below the knee. And he actually had trouble walking throughout all his life, because in 1944 a bomb heavily injured his left leg. So he was the classic patient who could have said he doesn't want to do anything anymore because he's too old and too sick, but he's still engaged in the training. And here are his test results. What's pretty impressive is when he started, he scored in the balance test that you can also find in the book, by the way. He scored 22 points, which is basically what you get if you can just stand up. So he already had trouble just standing up because his balance was not good enough. However, after just 1 week of training, he had quadrupled his test result. So this is, at this point, you already have a pretty okay balance. You can stand normally. You can already do some more difficult movements and more difficult exercises than just standing. It's, for example, the difference between walking only on the walker or walking normally without any help. But now you see that the test results get worse again. And why did that happen? He sadly had a stroke between these two tests. He suffered a stroke, and I actually did this balance test with him in the hospital. And now what's really interesting is that even after suffering the stroke, his balance was still better than before he started exercising. And because he went back to training, he started improving again. So obviously, this is not a miracle cure. He's still suffering from the polyneuropathy, and he still has not the greatest balance, but it is a lot better than it was before he started exercising. Now, you can never tell exactly what results a person will get, but literally everybody that I train with sees certain improvements. So what I suggest is you just try it. Just try exercising. You can get the book from me. As I said, it's €12.95. So it's literally less than the price of eating out just one time. If you do not see improvements in the first month, you can just send the book back and I'll refund 100%. So yeah, there's no risk for you. Just go ahead and try it. There are also, speaking about risks, there are also there's also safety advice in the book that's going to teach you how to prevent falls or injury during exercising, so you don't get in trouble while exercising, which is super important. Now, I suggest go ahead, try the training. You can find the book through, or you can order the book through the link that's right here under my face. I'll obviously put that in the description of the video too. I'll also put a link to my website where you can find more information about polyneuropathy. Now, I hope I helped you with the video, and thanks for watching.